What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We are in Gainesville, Florida. Beautiful Gainesville, Florida. And today we're going to be talking about the E-Ride's adjustable pedal hangers and what it means to raise or lower your pedals. But first, a little highlight rip from my last video.
What up, though? I'm back like I never left. And you back like you couldn't find better sex. Or a higher peak Everest. Better cream melanin. Let her in her dreams and she wetter in her jeans when I let her in. I am excellence. My glow let you know without testing it. Couple folk tested it. The rest turned to elephants with testaments. I told my son we descended of the gods, and it's true. And your limit of the stars that you view. So be wary of the stars that you view. One day you'll be a star too. Live life like a harpoon aimed at the sky in a carpool lane with no one beside except that cartoon dame.
All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Let's just talk about what it means to raise or to lower the pedals. Okay, so let's scale the language back just a little bit. Let's talk about what it means to make your feet higher in relation to the axle or lower in relation to the axle. Okay, so if your feet are higher in relation to the axle, then you have a lot more leverage on the motor. All right. If your feet are lower or beneath the axle, then you have less leverage on the motor. And before I move on, I want to illustrate this. Okay. So having less leverage on the motor is akin to trying to turn a nut by hand. Or if you try to turn a nut by wrench and you find that it's stiff, it's very difficult to move. You might then get yourself a lever arm, like a leverage arm. So you would get like a metal pipe and slide it over the wrench. So that way you can get your distance away from the center of the torque much further, so you can have more leverage on the force you're trying to create. To exemplify this, we'll say having your fingers on the nut would be akin to having your pedals right next to the ground, having yourself way below the center line of the axle. So the amount of force that you're going to be able to generate on the motor is going to be incredibly low. If we bring you up to just a couple of inches below the center line of the axle, you're going to feel like that wrench sort of mechanic, right? And if we get you up about 1.5 inches over the axle, well, now we're talking about having that leverage arm. So you're able to generate exponential force on the motor. That exponential force is what adds up ultimately to either acceleration or deceleration, braking in a meaningful way. So pedal height affects your ability to accelerate and brake, as well as lateral stability. That's like your perception of agility. And it also affects the pedal height. So those are the really big three things that we're looking at. We already looked at the acceleration and deceleration. Now, a lot of people like their pedals lower for high-speed movement. The reason for this, from a perceptual standpoint, from what you're going to feel, is that it takes a lot of the nuance to turning side to side out of your control. It puts a lot more of it into just the outright physics of it. You have far more leverage downforce past the axle, which is going to take your ability to manipulate the tilting of the axle out of the equation in a very big way. So for somebody that wants that stability at speed, that is accomplishing it by virtue of lowering the pedals, what they are actually saying is, I don't want as much control of my wheel because it scares me when I make it go left or right. Conversely, you can build up your muscles in such a way that you control every single nuance to the left or to the right, and don't let that be a product of you allowing the machine to dictate this path for you. That is dangerous, That is why people end up with extraordinarily bad wobbles at high speeds and they're unable to control them. Because when you take your control out of the wheel, it is very difficult to regain control once it is lost. Does that make sense? You lose control when you go below the axle too far. So trying to reclaim control is going to be incredibly difficult. In fact, it's incredibly dangerous. So what we'll say is that lowering the pedals past the center line of the axle actually forfeits control, and that is the mechanic by which stability is had. That's dangerous. We don't like that. The last thing that we affect when we're adjusting our pedals is obviously the pedal clearance, pedal height. If you're riding in a city and you like to go in straight lines, then probably a lower pedal height will make you feel more comfortable. If you ride trails at all and you like to corner really hard and really deep, then you're going to want those pedals pretty high so you don't pedal clip. It's dangerous. So, in conclusion, higher pedals means that you have more torque, more leverage, more acceleration, more brake. Higher pedals means that you have greater lateral control at high speed. If you so want the control, you're controlling it directly and not forfeiting it to the machine. And lastly, it's going to give you a whole lot more pedal clearance. So I hope that this was helpful, guys. I hope that you enjoyed, this little bit of information. And as always, I sincerely appreciate you and hope to see you next time.